In this video, I'm going to walk you guys through how to crush every step and stage of the SDR interview process, including secret tactics no one else is using or doing to impress, stand out, and guarantee you that job offer you deserve to break into tech sales. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Before going into an interview process and an interview conversation with a potential company that we're targeting, it's important to have a basic understanding of these four core components: company, product, market, and person. For the company, we need to understand what are the company's goals and priorities this year. Now, there's two different companies we could be targeting. There's public companies that are on the stock market exchange, and there's private companies. For public companies, it's super easy to find out what's important to this company this year. What challenges are they up against? Most importantly, what are the goals and priorities? We could simply read the 10Ks and annual reports. We can listen to earnings calls. Use this ChatGPT prompt in order to source that information for you. You want to understand what are the top 3 to 5 goals? How do those relate to sales? Most importantly, how would my position as an SDR tie into or drive those goals and priorities? Now, the reason this is important is this is going to help shape your responses to specific interview questions throughout the entire process to make sure they're tailored, specific, and detailed to that company. Super important. For private companies, it's more difficult because private companies, they don't have 10K reports that we can scan and research and read. They don't have earnings calls, right? Private companies are private. What we can do is we could read press releases, blogs are a good resource, executive interviews, podcasts, LinkedIn posts. What I like to do, guys, for private companies is I like to set up 15 to 20-minute conversations for current SDRs or account executives at the company that I'm targeting, at the company that I have an interview set up with. Give them a $15 Starbucks gift card. Ask them some questions to help you best prepare for that conversation, and then ask specific questions. Hey, what are like the top 3 to 5 goals for the sales organization this year? And how are you specifically as an SDR driving towards those goals and priorities? That will impress in an interview process. You could also use this ChatGPT prompt as well to pull some sort of that information off the web. Great, that's company. Up next is product. What the heck does the product do? We need a basic understanding, right? What does the product do? More importantly, what are the specific problems the product solves and for who? A good resource for that, guys, is G2. This is free. All you want to do is type in the company that you are interviewing with, and it's going to provide reviews from current and past customers. What they liked, what they didn't like, the specific problems, why they bought. This information is killer, and it's killer to bring this up during an interview process because it shows you went beyond the basics in terms of research. Great step there. We need an understanding of the competitive landscape. Do a SWOT analysis. Why would the company we're interviewing with, why would they win versus the top 2 to 3 competitors? And also, not just why they would win, why they would lose. We need a basic understanding of this, and you could use this ChatGPT prompt here to understand the competitive landscape of the role you're probably going to get because you watched this video. That's product. Up next is market. Market is very closely aligned to product. Market is just who are we selling into? What industries are we focused on? What titles are we selling to? What departments are we selling to? We need an understanding of this. You guys can use this ChatGPT prompt here to gain a good basic understanding of the market that you will be cold calling and prospecting into as an SDR. And this is going to help us develop something a couple steps down the line here. I'm going to get to that in a couple minutes. And then lastly is person. I mean, each person we meet with, they care about different things. You know, like someone in HR cares about different things than somebody who is the VP of sales. I'm going to talk about what those different things are throughout the interview process. It's important to note, guys, do not try and boil the ocean when it comes to research. I hope this didn't stress you out and overwhelm you. Use AI and ChatGPT to your advantage. All you need here is the basics, 45 minutes of research per interview. That's it. You don't want to get bogged down, overwhelmed. It's just going to stress you out. Now that we're prepared, round 1 is typically a phone screening with somebody in HR or a recruiter. Now, before that conversation, what you want to do is you want to send this email. It's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to set the stage. It shows you're prepared, and it shows you're enthusiastic and excited for that conversation. So here's the email here. Just copy and paste this in, and you can tweak these bullet points to what's important to you and what your style is. Must send this email a day to 2 days before that conversation. Great. We're in the interview. This is a basic call, guys. It's set up for 30 minutes. Oftentimes it lasts 15 to 20. This is not an interview you want to stress out about a lot. It's super easy. It's a hard conversation to screw up. So if you have this conversation coming up, do not stress it. Who you're speaking with, obviously, this is not somebody that works in sales. This is somebody who works in HR, talent acquisition. Maybe it's a recruiter. Their job, what their day looks like, is they're meeting 5 to 7 different candidates like you a day. They're doing 5 to 7 of these phone screenings every single day. It's quick, back to back to back to back to back. What they're doing is they just want to make the check. Is this a immediate yes or no? Somebody in recruiting, somebody in HR, when there is an open position for a sales role at an organization, typically the VP of sales and the hiring manager, they sit down and they come up with the requirements or what they're looking for the role. These are the skills we're looking for. This is the past experience we're looking for. This is what an ideal candidate looks like. And they're passing that information down to the person in HR, the person in recruiting, to help filter in or filter out somebody. They're not looking for deep selling skills here, guys. What they're looking for, can you speak clearly and confidently? Obviously, if you're in sales, that's important. Do you know what you're signing up for? If you're watching this video, you probably know what you're signing up for because hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and watching all the other videos that are focused on becoming a great SDR. Do you show enthusiasm and resilience? I would say enthusiasm, guys, in this conversation and throughout every conversation is the most important quality these folks are looking for. The most important quality they're looking for. Are they enthusiastic? Are they likable? Are you a culture fit? Coachable is key, but coachable, I would say, is more important further down the line than in this specific interview here. What they're going to ask you, it's basics, guys. Walk me through your background. The great answer formula for this is you want to focus on the skills that are transferable in an SDR role. You might be somebody who is graduating college and you don't have any sales experience, but you have a lot of experience. You have school projects you worked on. You have summer jobs you worked on. Maybe you worked in an Italian restaurant as a line cook like I did when I was in college. There's a lot of transferable skills from that job to becoming a great SDR. Maybe you're further along in your career and you're a teacher and you're looking to pivot and switch careers altogether and get into tech sales and become an SDR. There's a lot of transferable skills in terms of what it takes to be a great teacher that would pull over really well into becoming a great SDR. So you want to focus your background on those skills. Obviously, they're going to ask you, why do you want to get into sales? You need a very specific, detailed answer in terms of your motivation to getting into this industry. Now, this question here, why do you want to work here? I don't want to say this is a trick question, guys, but so many people screw this question up because their answer is just basic and specific. Your answer to this question, it needs to be the opposite. Detailed and specific to that specific company to show you did your research. The great answer formula, 2 steps. Walk them through your evaluation process. This is the criteria that's important to me, and then share how the specific company fits that criteria. For example, if someone were to ask me, hey Matt, why do you want to work here? Great question, Chris. And Chris, you might not like the first half of my answer to this question, but I don't really care what product I sell next. It could be in a variety of industries. It could be cybersecurity. It could be DevOps. It could be MarTech. It could be sales tech. That's not all that important to me. What is important to me is making sure, number one, I'm selling a must-have product, not a nice-to-have product. Ideally, it's one of, if not the top products in its product category, where ideally at least 40% of the current SDRs in seat at your company have been there at least a year, and 40% of the sales folks who left the company to sell elsewhere stayed at least 2 years. That's the first half of that answer, of how I answer that question. And of course, the second half of that answer is going to be explaining how the company fit into my criteria. And it puts that, the way you answer that question, it puts it more in a frame of like, yeah, this is a two-way street. You're seeing if I'm a good fit to be hired by your company, but I'm also seeing if you're a good fit to hire my services to become a salesperson for your company. Awesome. What do you know about the role? Here's where we need to do some research. So let's say I'm in LinkedIn, and let's just go to Gong. Everybody loves Gong. And what you're going to do from a research perspective, and I already touched on this, guys. You're going to go to people and just type in the title for the role you're going after, which is SDR in this case. Now there's 279 current SDRs at this company. All I would do is I'm going to send Julius a blank connection request. Now, if Julius were to accept my blank connection request, I'm going to go back into my phone on the LinkedIn app. I'm going to pull up my phone and I'm going to send Julius a LinkedIn video message or a voice note that simply says something like this. Julius, really appreciate you accepting my LinkedIn connection request. Excitingly, I have an interview conversation for an open SDR role with XYZ at Gong on Thursday. Was curious, I know we just met here. Would you be opposed to meeting for 15 to 20 minutes? I have some questions I want to bounce off you to best prepare for the conversation, better understand what an SDR role looks like here. For your time, I'll send you a $15 gift card to your favorite restaurant. If you do that, guys, 10 times, at least 2 to 3 people will come back and have that conversation with you. As salespeople, we get it. It is super hard to break into tech sales. It's super hard to break into a company like Gong. They have been there. They've done it. Therefore, a lot of these folks are going to be willing to help you out and hop on these calls. That's how you do detailed research on the role. You could look up stuff on Google. You could use ChatGPT. But hearing it from a current SDR and then explaining in the interview process that, hey, I had a conversation with Julius. He's on your SDR team. He told me these are the 3 to 5 things that are important to you. Here's how I think I fit into those 3 to 5 things. Will go miles during an interview process. Now, what you should ask them, because it's also important. The questions they ask you are important. I would argue the questions you ask them in any stage of the interview process are more indicative of how you're going to be as a salesperson around discovery. A couple questions. Personal question. Notice you were at Google for 7 years before joining ABC. Curious, what motivated you to leave Google for here? The reason I like asking the HR recruiter a personal question is because they don't get personal questions. They simply get questions around benefits, around comp, which is great, guys, but you could find out that information on the web. This is going to be a pattern interrupt for them, and it's going to get them to like you. And then you want to ask a role question. What needs to happen for an SDR to promote to AE? There's tons of different questions you could ask throughout the interview process. I'm going to share a ton of them later on in this interview. In this video. This is not an interview, it's a video. And then, guys, you have to close. It's a sales interview. You're going for a sales role. Ask this question. Based on our conversation, do you have any concerns that would prevent you from moving me forward in the interview process? If you don't do this and you just hang up without going for the close, you don't deserve to move forward in the interview process. You could screw up the entire interview. If you do this, this might salvage you as a candidate and you might move on. And then after you validate that there's nothing they're concerned about, you're moving on in the process. Let me just take a step back. If they do come back and they say, hey, these are my concerns, now you know them and you can address them head on. If there are no concerns and they're moving you in the interview process, get that scheduled before you leave. And then you want to ask a question that helps you prepare for the conversation. If you were me, preparing for the next round, what advice would you give? Get some intel, get some help from them. They are invested in your success in the interview because I'm sure they're comped on moving you forward. And if they move you forward and you were to get a job offer and accept it and stay a good amount of time, they probably get some sort of commission check based on that. And after the interview, obviously, we need to send a thank you note. So many people forget this step. It is so, so important. Here's a basic thank you note here. Just your 2 key takeaways. Make sure you include them based on the conversation, specific and detailed. Boom. Easy conversation, nothing to stress about. Now this guarantees to impress, and a lot of people have utilized this and have won the interview over and landed 80,000 plus dollar offers to break into tech sales. It is an SDR or sales prospecting plan, I should say. I'm going to quickly walk you through this. You guys get this for free, and this entire Notion template's free. Link in the description. Basically, the goal of this, guys, is to impress. Nobody else is going to go to this length in order to prepare and impress during an interview process. No one is doing this. Trust me. I hear it all the time. Nobody is doing this. I do this for all of my interviews. And it's showing you could do the job before you get the job. Why the company? List out 3 specific reasons as to why you're interested in working for this specific company. Going back to that competitive landscape. Who's the competitor? Where do they win? Versus where do we win versus them? The math behind your quota and pipeline. You could gather that information typically online, or when you're interviewing current SDRs, they'll give you a lot of this information you can filter into here. Understand the target market. We've already went through that. What's your overall prospecting plan? As you can see, guys, most of the work here is already done for you. And then a 30, 60, 90-day plan. All you got to do is send this to the hiring manager before round 2. This is going to impress. I guarantee it. Nobody else will do this. All right, round 2. Interview with the hiring manager. Before the interview, obviously, we're sending over a similar agenda email. The only difference here is we're including the detailed sales plan in that email. This does a couple things. I've sent this before an interview for SDR roles and account executive roles, and this took over the entire interview process. I've hopped on the call, and the guy's like, Matt, thank you so much for sending that plan. No one's ever sent me something like this before. Would you mind walking me through it? 100%. Now I'm in control of that conversation. Send it before, 2 days ideally. During the interview, this is a bit of a longer call, 60 minutes. Now you're speaking with your future boss, who's going to be your SDR manager. Their job, obviously, is to find reps who will hit activity, book meetings, and ramp fast. They need reps to ramp fast because they get paid off your success. Here are some things they care about. Do you understand what the SDR role really is? Can you communicate? Are you coachable, resilient? The basics, guys. You all know this. Are you hungry for growth? Just keep these traits in mind as you're interviewing, as you're asked to do certain things during the interview process. This is exactly what you're looking for. Grit, coachable, resilient. Boom. Now, when you hop on that conversation, it would benefit you. I mean, you're going for a sales role. In this case, you're the salesperson. You're the product selling yourself to this company, to the hiring manager. Take control of that conversation. Say something as simple as this. Chris, glad we're able to connect today. Would it be helpful to get the conversation going if I walk you through my background and why I'm interested in this position, and we could go from there. Also, I sent you this yesterday, but I put together a detailed sales plan for the position. Happy to walk you through it if you think it'd be relevant for today's conversation. You're taking control. You're setting the agenda. Most of the time, most people just sit back and they wait for the first question to get answered. This will be a breath of fresh air, for the hiring manager. What they're going to ask you, obviously they're going to ask you the same questions as above. And these are some questions that I have gotten asked in previous SDR interviews. Teach me something. How would you cold call me right now? What does your prospecting process look like? So these two here, mean, they're testing you. Can you think on your feet? Tell me about a time you received tough feedback. How did you respond? They're going to ask probably a couple star-related questions, situation, task, action, or result. I hate those questions, but they're going to ask them. What's the most competitive thing you've done outside of work? Guys, hot take here. The questions they ask you, they're important, and your answers, they're important. But what's far more important to most hiring managers, and I've spoken with a ton over the last couple of years, are the questions you ask them. So we're not asking generic questions that everyone else asks. For example, this is a great question. Let's say that I'm struggling. I'm 6 months into the role, providing some context. I'm not booking meetings. I'm not building pipeline. What would your process look like to not only diagnose the problem, but coach me up to get on track? That's a killer question. Here's a lot of other questions you want to ask. This is in my sales interview system, guys. I believe right now it's $47. Not a whole lot, but in the sales interview system, under each account that you were to build out, and this is the entire interview system that I use to automate my entire job search process from start to finish. It's killer. I probably should sell it for more than $47, but it is what it is. If I go down here, you get all of these questions to expect. More importantly, questions that you should be asking. So there's role questions, there's sales process questions, product questions, like pick and choose different questions from each category. And then I'm going to touch on these questions here because they are most important. But tons of different questions you could ask. You get access to that in the sales interview system. Those questions are far more important than the answers to the questions they're asking you. Just my opinion, bit of a hot take. And of course, we need to close out the conversation. Can you walk me through the concerns that you have about me joining your team? So a little bit different than the close up here, just giving you guys a couple options for each round. After the interview, this is key. Not only are we sending along a thank you note, this PS, attached are several references with their phone numbers and emails. I'm sure you will ask for these at some point, so I thought I'd get ahead of the game here. Boom. Nobody else is proactively putting references in front of the hiring manager. It's reactive. They're asking for it. In this case, you're so confident. Here's 5 to 7 folks that could speak on my behalf as to why I will be a great person for the role. You could stop interviewing other people. I'm your guy. Proactive versus reactive. Guys, like little things like this go a long way and set you apart, set you up for success, and guarantee you that job offer that you deserve. Now, it's important, guys. There are certain questions that you need to be asking to uncover red flags. I don't want to scare you, but most tech sales jobs suck. You're sold a bag of goods, you're excited, you get the role, and everything you thought you were getting into is actually a 180. It's a lie. Most of the time, a lot of times you're lied about positions. Not meant to scare you, but I just want to make sure you have your antennas up and you're asking these questions to make sure, am I set up for success in this position or am I set up for failure in this position? And you need to exhaust these questions. If you have any concerns before you accept the offer, you need to get your questions answered to make sure when you finally accept it, you feel comfortable and confident you're walking into a good situation. But these are, 12 great questions to really understand, is this a spot I want to work at or not? For example, what's the average tenure of SDRs here? If it's less than 12 months, guys, the reps are burning out or they're getting fired. That's why they're not here. Now, you could use LinkedIn to get the answer to this question. You could easily just go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator and search past companies and see how long did the past or current SDR stay at the role as an SDR. And if there is any discrepancy between LinkedIn and their response, red flag. What percentage of SDRs hit quota consistently? Now, you could use RepView to source this. So if you just go to ChainGuard, for example, I know their SDRs are killing it. And we go to salary, we could see 66% of chain guard SDRs are hitting quota. That's great. So use RepView to answer this before. And again, if the answer is wildly different than RepView, they're probably lying. Down the line, these questions are great. Please add these into your talk track. Have them next to your desk when it's time for you to ask questions. Focus more on these red flag questions than any other category. Super important. All right, after round number 2, round number 3 is a cold call role play. And I know when I said that, you guys probably squirmed in your seat a bit. I know role plays suck. I absolutely hate role plays. I don't think role plays are a good interview exercise whatsoever. I don't think they're all that fair. That's just my take. I don't want you to stress this, guys. ChatGPT prompt. Use this prompt to understand who you're calling on, specifically what are the problems you're looking to solve. Add them in here. And I provided you some different openers, different reasons for the call. You could plug these into ChatGPT and it's going to do all of the work for you. Different ways to close out the conversation the right way to potentially book a meeting. And then how to answer or respond to any objection you might get hit during the cold call role play. Have this out on your desk to reference. Your mind might go blank. They might say, I'm not interested. Your mind might go blank. Look down at your desk. That's how you answer that objection, move the conversation forward, book the meeting, kill the role play. Do not stress this. What you want to do afterwards, ask for feedback, ask for coaching, ask to do the exercise again, instilling or using that feedback and coaching they just provided you, and ask for feedback again. That's how this goes. Is it going to be perfect? No. Are you going to screw up? Probably. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking, again, are you coachable and resilient? That's how you demonstrate that. Now, again, you have to close. What, if anything, would stop you from giving me an offer? After the interview. Glad we're able to connect today. Enjoyed the role play exercise. This is an email you're sending. I really appreciate the coaching. My 2 biggest takeaways were 1 and 2. Looking forward to insert the next step. If there's anything I do to best prepare to knock that out of the park, let me know. Boom. You're past round 3. Round 4 typically is a conversation with the VP of sales. This conversation, I actually think, is the easiest conversation in my previous interview experience that I've had. When I've interviewed with CROs, when I've interviewed with VP of sales, it's a pretty laid-back conversation, guys. This is not a conversation to stress about. Before the interview, you want to send along that email. In the email, the PS here, you're including a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Or you can include the sales plan, whatever's better for you. The 30, 60, 90-day plan for an SDR, I did it for you. First 30 days are sponge mode. 31 to 60 are all about getting quick wins. 61 to 90, it's go time. I'm ramping quickly. I'm booking meetings. I'm going to be your top rep. You want to send this in some sort of format to the VP of sales prior to that first conversation. You're prepared. You have a plan in order to ramp up, be successful, and help them make money. During the interview, I'm going to switch this to 30 minutes, guys. This is a 30-minute video call, maybe 45 minutes. The VP of sales, CRO, they care about revenue growth. Are you someone they'd invest in for 2 to 3 years? Or are you somebody who's going to be here for 6 months and bounce if you get a better offer? That's what they care about. Do you show business curiosity? Remember all that work we did in research about the company, about the market, about the ICP? Do you know who we're prospecting into? This is what they're testing you on during this interview. Do you project executive presence? Confidence. They're an executive. You might be meeting with executives as an SDR. It's not just account executives. Are you serious about a career in sales, or are you just trying it out? This is what they're kind of vetting and trying to figure out. Like the other interviews, we're starting with an agenda. Chris, glad we're able to connect today to kick things off. Would it be helpful if I walk you through my background, why I'm interested in this specific company, in your company, and how I see myself contributing to your team? Also, I put together a 30, 60, 90-day plan to ramp quickly. Happy to walk you through it if it would be helpful for today's conversation. Taking control. They'll be impressed. What they're going to ask you, Same questions as above too, guys, but why do you want to work in sales? Where do you see yourself in 2 to 3 years? Obviously, they want you to be here in 2 to 3 years as an account executive because you promoted quickly, because you crushed your SDR role. What excites you the most about this specific industry and market right now? You need a good answer for that one, specific and detailed. Teach me something that might test you. If you book 0 meetings your first month, what will you do? These are just some questions I've gotten asked in the past by CROs and VP of sales. It could be a whole variety. Again, what you should be asking them is far more important. Here's a couple questions, 3 to 4 for you guys to ask to somebody higher up in the sales organization. And like any interview, you got to close. For the VP of sales, a CRO, I like to be assumptive. Awesome. When can I start? And if there's any sort of hesitation, like not quite sure yet, we have other people that we're interviewing, then you want to handle that objection. It sounds like you have some hesitations about moving me forward in the interview process, or you want to isolate the objection. Outside of interviewing other folks, is there anything else holding you back from moving me forward? No. Okay. And then you can move the conversation forward. After the interview, sending along the same exact thank you email, specific key takeaways, attaching the references. Awesome. If you follow these steps, do the sales plan, be proactive with references, send pre-emails and post-thank you emails, and are enthusiastic and coachable, and you interview current SDRs at the job before the interview conversations, you're setting yourself up for success. You might not get the first offer, but within a few interviews, you are going to land an offer. Now, once you get the offer, it's time to evaluate it. Take a step back before accepting and really evaluate the offer. You need to understand the money. So the median base salary for an SDR is $60K. Median OTE is $85. Top earners are making $128. Current quota attainment across tech for SDRs is 54.5, which is actually up 5%, which is pretty good. But if the offer is below the median, I would bring this data back to them and see if you can negotiate. Because if it's below that, you're talented, you're skilled, you could get an offer that you deserve at an organization that's going to value you because they're paying you the market rate. Negotiation frameworks. If the offer is below the above numbers, awesome, super excited about joining the team. Based on my experience and research, I'm expecting an offer in this range, and you could show that rep view data. Any chance there is room to adjust. If you have another offer, you could bring that up. If they can't move on the salary, I understand if the base salary is firm, would it be a ridiculous idea to explore an increase in commission percentage, signing bonus, or additional benefits such as equity and PTO? Now, if you feel a bit intimidated to have these type of conversations, I completely get it. I feel intimidated to have them as well. But you and me, we're mercenaries in sales, and we need to be paid what we're worth. And if the base salary, OTE, commission structure is not up to market standards, is not up to our standards, we need to push back on that. And it should show them that we're a good salesperson, because we're going to be negotiating against prospects for the company. Now, what to negotiate beyond salary? Obviously, we already talked about it. Higher commission rate, lower quota, signing bonus, equity, remote work. In terms of accepting, accept the offer only if it meets your standards. Walk away if it doesn't. And I know that might be hard because this might be your first rodeo trying to get into tech sales. You might be 6 to 9 months trying to get into tech sales. This could be your first offer. But the last thing you want to do is accept an offer for pay that's not all that great. You could get better elsewhere. And you didn't ask those red flag questions, and you're walking into a situation where no SDRs are promoting. SDRs are stuck in SDR purgatory, and it's complete hell. Make sure before you accept an offer, you get your questions answered. All of them. So you're confident and you're comfortable. You're walking into a situation where you're set up for success and set up to win. Now, in order to do due diligence and proper research on organizations that you should be targeting, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you.